Well, hi guys. I hope everything's fine. My name is Kretz and I'm just concerned about the picture because I'm just testing a new set of ND filters from my favorite company, Freewell. You can find my other reviews on the filters and we'll review this filter as well, and you'll find it in a separate playlist. But as of right now, I have a little bit of chat to proceed here, and this is a simple video just blathering without any editing, and I want to think your thoughts. What do you think about the picture and about such genre of just simply talking to you? And what I'm going to be talking about, I just want to say a few words about what's the camera world, where the camera world is going to, and particularly what's going on with the Canon brand. Because I'm primarily the Canon user. I use Canon gear and still, well, I hope it tracks my face. I still use some DSLRs, but we are currently shooting with the mirrorless camera. And in my opinion, it's very interesting what's going on with the smartphones, which have cameras, the point-and-shoot cameras, micro four thirds, APS-C, and full-frame cameras. These five are the most popular aspect ratios and sensor sizes. So these things are in correspondence with each other, and there are different more sensor sizes like medium format and even smaller, which is something in between the smartphones, and smartphones also have different sensor sizes. But what I'm talking about here, starting from about 2010, I believe, there was that point. Well, before that, the serious cameras did not have such a competition with the smartphones because the cameras were just, bad, basically. When I was young, there were 0.3 megapixels, then 1.3 megapixels was just huge. It was the best cameras in the world, considering that it was in your pocket. But the serious cameras, at least like APS-C and full frame, they were not competition to smartphones. But starting from 2010, smartphones being so good in the camera department that really the sales started to decline, like officially, the official statistics. And firstly, the point-and-shoots started disappearing because they were almost as small as smartphones, but smartphones always in your pocket, and point-and-shoot, you have to take it with you. It may not have such a big functionality. I hope this sound and the picture is fine. It did not have such functionality, so point-and-shoot started to decline in sales, but APS-C and full frame as well. It was primarily reserved for professionals or semi-professionals, or those who like the real photography, not the mobile photography. It's just a totally new and separate genre. But now, today, in 2025, the smartphone cameras are so good. I mean, in general use, in such in bright light, outdoors, they're not so good at night and indoors, but they are still so much better than they were a couple of decades before. So that, in my opinion, especially I'm talking about Canon, as I've mentioned above, the niches in the market started separating. So previously, in the DSLR times, brands actually competed with the smartphones. They tried to drag the users from smartphones to at least APS-C or even point-and-shoots because, they were better, really, better picture quality. But now, with the fantastic smartphone cameras, a lot of them, even cheap ones, even the cheapest mobile phones or smartphones today have really, really good cameras. And I myself, in 2015, generally 10 years ago, had the first in the world smartphone with the fake bokeh, with this so-called portrait mode, and it was fine. You could play with it. It was not a serious photography, but it was fine. You could use that, and now 10 years later, these portrait modes has gone such a way that it's really good. And in your social networks, on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, I hope the wind does not spoil the sound. They look good on small smartphone screens or even on a tablet. It all looks fine. And so when the Canon turned mirrorless in 2018, well, actually the camera which we're using right now for shooting this video was the first full-frame Canon mirrorless camera. This is the EOS R. It's a fantastic camera, by the way, still. And I guess Canon started to like dividing the niches and stop competing with the smartphones. Well, it's in my opinion. And not only that, but again, in my humble opinion, I think they almost dropped APS-C as well. If you know, Canon before had the EF-M line of cameras. There was mirrorless cameras, but they were APS-C, and Canon did not have full-frame mirrorless cameras. Although for about a decade they had these EF-M mirrorless crop sensor cameras, and well, they were rather popular actually, and I've reviewed some of them. They were really good, especially the ones that had dual pixel autofocus, but that was kind of like the separate system from the DSLRs, different bayonet, different lens range and stuff. And when they put out the RF bayonet, the new bayonet for all their contemporary mirrorless cameras, they simply dropped EF-M. It's like it's dead line now. But in my opinion, the RFS line, which is crop sensor mirrorless cameras with the contemporary RF bayonet, is dying as well. And why I think so? Well, first, the prices for mirrorless full frame just rose, just gone way up, and especially the lenses. The contemporary L lenses are very, very expensive. And since I'm having R camera, I still don't have a single RF lens, because the cheaper ones, there are a lot of cheaper ones, they're no better, and in my opinion, by build quality is even worse than the old DSLR lenses for DSLR, I mean full frame ones. I have a lot of L lenses for DSLRs, the EF line, and I have some cheaper third party, which are also great. And I've tested quite a number of RF lenses, and optically they are really fine, but with the build quality, some of my old EF lenses, they are still better. And the top of the line RF lenses, I believe they must be fine. I haven't tried them yet, but I believe they have fine build quality, although I think it's still worse than, I suggest it is still worse than the old big and bulky RF lenses, but they are very, very expensive, and so I'm still using a lot of EF lenses on my EOS R with the native adapter, EF to RF. So the full frame line of RF just gone way up in the price range. Although R is now much less expensive, it's way cheaper, and of course there's RP and the fantastic R8 camera. So these are good, but they have a lot of limitations actually for serious photography and videography. And the better cameras like R6, R6 Mark II, R5, R3 and R1 are way more expensive, but not even the cameras themselves, but the lenses are so expensive now. So in my opinion, the full frame RF line is purely reserved for professionals, or for those who are really ready to spend a lot of cash for, you know, the equipment. And now let's see to the RFS line. First, there are not so many cameras as of right now. R100, 50, 10, 7, what else? Is that all? Well, and it doesn't matter. And now you see in the title there is R50V and V1, and we'll get to that in a second. But well, the number of cameras is decent enough, but about the lenses, there are just few lenses for RFS native, and they are not so good. They're not interesting. They have, oh, wind again. They have dull and dark maximum aperture. There are not so many. It's not anything interesting in the zoom department range. I mean, in the full frame RF line, Canon actually put out a lot of very interesting lenses, like 24 to 105, 2.8 constant aperture, 10 to 20 f4, 135, 1.8. What else? Well, there are a lot of lenses which do not exist in the DSLR world. So they are new, they are interesting, and they are innovative lenses, like almost pancake 16mm 2.8. These are new models, but in the RFS department there is nothing new really. There's kind of like super zoom 18 to 150, the wide angle, what is it, 10 to whatever, or 11 to 22 or whatever. Well, I'm not even very much familiar with them, but all I know is that they took the old EFM lenses, of which I was talking about a few minutes before. They just redesigned it, rehoused it for the RF bayonet, and that's it. But at the same time, Canon, unlike other brands, do not allow third-party lenses to RF mount these days for full frame. Unlike it was in the DSLRs, which were, Tamron, Tokina, Samyang, and Sigma, of course. At least these 4 brands, and actually many more, were present on the market, and you could use all these lenses for DSLRs, and you can still use them like I do on our camera with the adapter. But there's nothing like that for RF full frame right now with the native bayonet. Canon does not allow that, does not give licenses for that. But for RFS they do. So, in my opinion, they dropped the cropped sensor cameras, left alone without a lot of native lenses, but instead they started selling the licenses to third parties, like Sigma put out some lenses, and I believe some other brands. So they're not betting so much on APS-C anymore, I think, and they reserve full frame for those who have money, and they left APS-C very poor on lenses, but started allowing third parties to go into it, and there's still not so many lenses for that. And that's, in my opinion, really interesting. So the smartphones have their own niche. The full frame is expensive and reserved for professionals, or whatever you call it. And the APS-C is left without much care, in my opinion. So I think Canon just does not care about cropped sensor cameras any longer. They still put it out. And let's now get back to the title, which is R50V and V1. That is maybe where they really start to compete with the smartphones. Because the bloggers who are not into cinematography that much, they don't care about the picture so much, and they don't care about sensor size and stuff. They can really shoot their videos with the smartphone. But to overrun it and present some new features and very comfortable and useful features for video, Canon now really put out the R50V and V1 line, which is interesting, but for serious photography and videography, there's not much use for it. But for like casual bloggers, I don't know, beauty bloggers, food cooking vloggers and stuff, that might be useful, but it's not that much difference from the smartphones. It's a niche again. Well, what about the timing? It's about 13 minutes, and EOS R still only allows half an hour to record, unlike more contemporary cameras which allow hour or 2 hours or even 6 hours. But R only half an hour, but we still have some time. So bottom line is they stopped competing with the smartphones, but put out some kind of like video cameras for the poor, I would call it so, like R50V and V1, and the reserved full frame for professionals. That's really interesting. I left APS-C a few years ago. I'm on full frame right now, and I'm selling my APS-C equipment currently, so I'm not interested in that. But the thing itself is interesting because many people still kind of like protect APS-C cameras in arguments. Well, of course there are some benefits to APS-C, but in most cases I'm always full frame any day of the week, but some still protect it, and I think it's just the line that goes nowhere, because there's smartphones and there's full frame, and not much between that and that. And I don't know how about other brands. You please type in comments if you are a Nikon user or Sony or whatever. I know they put out both APS-C and full-frame cameras, but how about the niches? Is there a lot of lenses for their cameras? No, not in Canon, definitely. So that's basically what I wanted to say. These are quite weird cameras, R50V and V1. And last point, maybe the V1, if I'm not mistaken, is the first Micro Four Thirds camera by Canon, actually. If you look at the sensor size, it's basically Micro Four Thirds. With one exclusion, it's 3x2. It's a standard Canon aspect ratio 3:2, but in the other aspects is the size of the Micro Four Thirds. 4/3 is 4:3, and Canon sensors are 3:2. But basically, concerning the sensor size overall, it's really the first Canon Micro Four Thirds camera, only with the 3:2 aspect ratio. So it's very interesting, and it has a built-in lens, so it's not so interesting for serious photography and videography, but still. First Canon Micro Four Thirds camera. It's interesting if it's gonna go anywhere further. We'll see how it develops. Will be there other V cameras, and they have something like that in RF line, like R50 or R5S or whatever they call it. The kind of like hybrid between the photo and video cameras. I've never been into that, truly. I just enjoy my photo camera for shooting videos. But still, full frame, mobiles, and something weird now just appeared in between. Well, let me know what you think about it. It's basically all I wanted to say, but if there is something more, I'll shoot another video, or we'll continue discussing it in the comment section below. And in the meantime, just subscribe, put like, leave a comment down below, and I see you later. Or maybe not. It's up to you. Bye.